Welcome along everyone to the first Super Rugby preview show of 2018. Round 1 is just hours away, so let's get our predictions in. Who we think is going to take out these opening only two South African matches to kick off Super Rugby in 2018. Now, after this great response we had to our South African conference preview, it's only fitting, it's only fair that we bring back Brett Hartley to not only defend himself, to justify his comments, but to also have more say about South African rugby. Welcome back, Brett. How are you going?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me again, Cornflake. I'm hoping I don't get crucified in the comments again like I did last time. Any Bulls fans out there, Bulls aren't playing this week, so you can give it a rest just for 1 week.
Hey, come on, there's some good discussion in that video, which is awesome. I welcome anyone. They want to criticise, they want to not argue so much, but if they want to allow their points to come through the comments, more than welcome. Feel free. I tell you, I read them all. Brett obviously reads them all as well when he's in the videos. So, hey, it's all great to have a little bit of discussion and you know, to get comments that you've said obviously have piqued people's interest enough to have their say as well. So more of that would be great. Let us know what you think in the comments below. But just remember, before we kick off, this is just our opinion. This is what we think. Doesn't mean we're right, doesn't mean we're wrong. It's just our opinion. So you guys can have yours as well. Let us know what you think about these games coming up. So we're going to be looking at these two games. We've got the Stormers, the Jaguares at Newlands. Then we have the Lions and the Sharks at Ellis Park or Emirates Airline Stadium, whatever they want to call it these days. Those are the two games. We're going to look at those and a little bit about some of the comments as well that we had come in from the South African conference about these two sides. So a little bit of both, a little bit of chatter, a little bit of banter, but let's get stuck into it. It is game number 1. The opening game of Super Rugby 2018 is the Stormers versus the Jaguares. Now, this one at Newlands, a home game for the Stormers. So I've got a lot to say about this one as regards to the Jaguares, but I'm going to start off with something that was mentioned a bit in the comments quite a lot. It was about preseason. Now, personally, from my point of view, preseason means, like I said in the comments, it means as much as jelly in the sun, absolutely nothing. It's fitness, it's practice, it's game plan, and that's all it really is. The Stormers, they thrashed the SWD Eagles 77-0, and then they drew with, it seems to be the comments' favourite team, the Bulls, 26-all. On the other side of things, the Jaguares faced an Argentinian 15. They won that 31-12. And then they lost 21-12 to the Bulls. But overall, does that tell us? I think this tells us nothing. What do you make of preseason?
No, I'm on the same boat as you. Preseason, like you said, is probably just bit more intense training. No player's going to go completely full out when they know they've got a big season ahead of them. No one wants to get injured in preseason. And, you know, hardly anyone watches. The stakes aren't very high. And you're never going to really get the best performances out of anyone. So while it's valuable and you can see some indication of form, you know, beating a team like the Eagles in preseason and thrashing them like that, it's a good sign for the Stormers that they didn't lose, obviously. But I wouldn't take too much out of any preseason game.
Does that form tell you anything? The fact that the Stormers, they drew with the Bulls, the Jaguares lost to the Bulls, a little mental edge maybe if the Stormers look at that and go, you know, tit for tat?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a bit of an edge. It's still a game of rugby at the end of the day, but no, it's not really. You know, the Bulls aren't a terrible team, so drawing with them is not the end of the world, and especially in preseason. We're not going to play your full-strength players for 80 minutes. You're going to give your young players, especially players on debut, a bit of a go. Give them some game time in the professional game, and just get them somewhat prepared for the intensity that is Super Rugby. So, you know, I would look for positives out of preseason, but I definitely wouldn't look for many negatives either.
So what's good about actually doing this video so late? It was intended to be early, but I mean, there's not much to really look at when you look at teams in this week of the competition. The first week, yes, we'll have a little bit of knowledge about these sides when it gets to real competition, but even next week when we've got all the other teams coming in, we still don't know much about them. So it's good that we now actually, at this point in time, have the starting 15s of these two sides. So going to look a little bit into those. For the Stormers, I think a big interesting point for this is who was starting at 10. For me, Dylan Williamson's got the start in the number 10 jumper, but in their game versus the Bulls, there was quite a bit of talk about how well George Whitehead played off the bench and actually come on and added a lot to them. So he had an impressive end to that preseason game, which definitely would have helped him. I think the battle between these two packs is where the game definitely, it's a rugby cliche, but two teams, especially the Jaguares, we talked about, they're going to really probably step up their game when it comes to their pack battle between the two teams. And when you look at last season, the only time these two teams met was 32-25 to the Stormers. And they are, of course, huge favourites too in the TAB here in New Zealand to take out this game. So, you know, the preseason result, they can look at that as well. The two teams lining up, I mean, it's a very, very good Argentinian side. What do you make of the two starting 15s?
Look, it's pretty much what I expected. Willem's side 10 was a bit of a surprise. He's probably one of their weaker points. Hopefully it proves me wrong, though, on the weekend. Just whether his tactical kicking and playmaking is up to par, and obviously his goal kicking as well, which is quite important. The Stormers' back three is quite impressive. You know, they're going to have good counter-attack with Lades and also Raymond Rule in his debut for the Stormers. That's an awesome back three, really fast-paced, good counter-attacking back three, which they'll punish a lot of the deep kicks. The Jags, not much really surprising. They got a lot of their young players in after some of their older players moved on. Obviously, the guy that's going to be key for them is Sanchez in the number 10 jersey. Like we said in the preview, he's going to be key to the success this year. And, you know, they've still got their awesome captain, Augustine Creevy, one of my favourite players in the competition. He's just so tough, so inspirational. And, you know, there's not really many surprises in either 15 apart from villains, so like you said.
What I think is going to be interesting about this game is the battle where I think the Stormers probably have the edge in the backs, where you've got quite a lot of experience, probably outside 10. Devon Arca definitely has a lot of experience. He'll be solid. But the likes of Rule, like I said, Dialandi, Villuan, Sinatla, Lades, all those guys should be quite strong. But then you look at that Jaguares side as well. It's pretty much an Argentinian, you know, national team. You got all these guys, Aguirre, Creevy, Chaparro, Alemano, Lavanini, Matera, Decio, Lizana. That's a pack and a half. I don't care what, you know, at a World Cup, that's a decent pack. If they can contain the back line, though, then they get an edge there. It could be a game, I think, the Jaguares could very, very easily win if they get their things right. But, I mean, they're going to win it up front. I think what you said there is going to be interesting with the number 10s. Who moves their pack around the best is going to be a big thing of who wins this game. And that's big pressure on Sanchez, who doesn't really do that as well as he could, and then a bit of an unknown with what the Stormers have as well on the other side. Speaking about the Jaguares, though, a lot of talk and a few comments from our South African preview as well about how this Jaguares team is a lot of youth. It's bigger, faster, stronger, better than what we've seen from the team currently. So from the comments, a lot of saying that we didn't give the youth enough credit. Do you think this could be the turning season for the Jaguares, where they unearth a lot of talent and get a lot of new players coming, despite, you know, losing to the Bulls in their preseason not being that great?
Yeah, I mean, like we said, preseason means next to nothing. If it's not this season, I think it'll be next season, whether they'll, you know, take a season or two to get these young guys involved. If you look at the Lions as an indicator, they weren't at this dominant force of young players straight away. They took 1 or 2 seasons to get right into it, and then they were absolutely outstanding. So I think that's what we might see with the Jaguars. With you know, you're not going to get a group of young guys, a group of promising young guys, and then have results straight away. You need to get them integrated. You need to get them up to the standard that Super Rugby is, and especially playing against the Kiwi teams. You know, your Crusaders, your Hurricanes of the world, and you know, your Lions as well. You just got to get them used to playing quality opposition like that. But you know, like I said, if not this season, then next season will be their turning point, I reckon.
Furthermore, on the Jaguares, there's a lot of talk about the travel. It's always something that the Argentinian franchise has to deal with. But what I found interesting looking into what their preseason has done in the build-up to this video, they've actually kicked off this season a few weeks ago. They've been in South Africa for quite a while. And when they go to Cape Town, Johannesburg, that's where they're playing their first 2 games on the road. But they've already played preseason games versus the Bulls, and that was at Loftus, or their B ground of Loftus. And they've stayed there for a few weeks. They're probably pretty well acclimatized. Is this their best position to win and get their season off to a good start? And do you think these 2 games are going to be the biggest of, you know, the first half of their season? Or are they still mentally thinking, get through this damage control, and then go home for 6 or 7 weeks, whatever it is, and then we start to play?
Yeah, it's quite difficult to sort of guess what they're thinking, but this is a good position. Like you said, they've been in South Africa for quite a while, which is really uncommon for the Jaguars to be able to acclimatise to their surroundings before a game, just primarily because of the distance they have to travel. Like you said, they've already played a game or two in South Africa, so and then losing to the Bulls last week, which wasn't the best result, but as we've said multiple times already, it's the preseason, so they would have had time to get over their jet lag, but also saying that it's still an extremely long way to travel, and they've obviously done more than the Stormers, who have stayed in South Africa their whole preseason. So, it's probably 50-50, and like you said, they might be thinking, damage control, hopefully pick up a game on this tour, and then get into that big home stint that we were talking about in the South African Conference preview. So, especially if they win here, they're going to be very dangerous going into the competition, just considering that long streak of home games that they have.
Now, not at all was I even thinking that they're going to be mentally going, we don't want to win these games. Obviously, they do. So we're not trying to portray that. I'm just more, in the back of their mind, it's something that, you always think about, where your best chances of winning. And they don't have the best record, but I think they'll definitely be giving 110% despite all that. But they could always be thinking, back to Argentina, long streaky games. It's got to be surely in the back of their mind somewhere. Finally, about the Jaguares. This is something else was mentioned in the comments about the coaching staff that they've got. We did talk about Ledesma at the time, but a lot of mention about the other coaches, their assistant coaches, which Ledesma, he's your pack coach, so he's going to look after your forwards pretty well. But they've also got Nicolas Fernandez Miranda, which is a 43-cap scrum half to play for Argentina, and they've got Martin Gaitan as a 22-cap centre. I apologise for butchering their name in any way possible, but two back coaches like that, pretty well kept as well, got to say, for Argentina. Do you think this is going to keep that consistent increase that we probably thought they might lose with their backs, especially?
Yeah, you'd hope so. It's probably a good idea to have two backs in there. I was quite interested to see that someone in the comments brought up the number of caps they had, because that normally doesn't have that much relevance in coaching. Normally, the better coaches actually aren't ex-players. Or ex-professional players. They've been coaches for most of their rugby careers, but have two back coaches balancing out the very forward dominant Mario Ledesma. It's probably a good idea, but like you and I were saying before we started recording, it's the coach who sets out the game plan, and it's the assistant to execute that game plan. So the coach, if he wants to stick to the game plan, he's not going to let the assistants run off and do their own thing. So we'll see how much input he lets them have. He'll probably being not having coached much as a head coach, he'll probably let them have quite a bit of input, but it'll be interesting to see what that dynamic is like.
Yeah, and we'll be speaking more about coaches, assistant coaches, things like that with the Lions and the Sharks. There's quite a bit of talk about those guys, so especially the Lions coaching stuff. So more on that if you're waiting to chew the fat on that one. There's definitely more of that coming near the end of that one. So finally, this is something I just added in as a bit of a funny point to see what you thought. Nothing to do with these two sides involved in this game, but looking at those preseason results, the fact the Bulls have played so many, the fact that they've won a few and played pretty well in some scrappy games, does this change your opinion of the Bulls in 2018?
Not really. It's good to see them. It's actually good to see them winning some games. Like I said later in the videos, I was copying quite a lot of hate for what I was saying about the Bulls. But for the Springboks to be good and for SA Rugby to be good, you need a good Bulls team. You look at the last peak of SA Rugby, the Bulls were either champions or they were serious contenders. So it's good to see them winning. It's good to see them get some form. But overall, I think that they'll either come fourth or fifth in the conference. I don't really see them climbing much higher with the personnel they've got in their team right now, and with the coaching staff as well. I hope they prove me wrong, but it doesn't really change my opinion too much.
It was an impressive set of results, so give them that. It did. Personally, I thought this is better than I thought they'd do. So it was, like you say, it was quietly impressive. Hopefully they continue. Like you say, for the good of South African rugby, hopefully it does continue as well. Right, what's your pick for Stormers versus Jaguares, and feel free to ramble on anything else about this match you want to add.
Yep. So I've gone. It's fairly lopsided. I actually struggled with this game. I think it could go either way, but I've got Stormers by 15, which is quite a big margin. But I'll sort of explain why the Stormers have won. In the last 8 seasons, the Stormers have won 6 out of their last 8 season openers. So they're very good starters of the season, and they normally have quite a strong start. And where they normally fall apart is towards the end of the season or when they go on tour. And Newlands is a very hard place to win at, and the Stormers fans are very passionate about their team, and they come out and support them in droves. And it should be a relatively full Newlands, you would hope, on the weekend. And the Jaguars, I think one thing they need to improve if they want to have a chance in this game is they were the most penalised team in Super Rugby last year. So it's a very bad crown to hold, I suppose, being the most penalised team. So they just need to sort out their discipline. Hopefully they'll be able to ring in the young guys, especially, and change that culture of giving away easy 3 points in front of the poles like they were doing quite a lot last season.
Lavanini, he's a card magnet, that man.
Yep.
And that's something I haven't brought up yet, which I'm sure most people are happy about, is cards, red cards, yellow cards, all that stuff. But I was going to save that for probably the round 2 preview when we've already probably got 3 yellow cards in the season already. So I'm just waiting. Well, I know. I mean, we've got records to beat. Last season we smashed the season before. So, who knows? We'll have a card counter for the season. The round 2 preview. Obviously can't have one today yet, so that's something it's going to be a topic of discussion. I can't see it going any other way. It just has to be. You're going Stormers by 15. I'm going to go Stormers a little bit closer. I'm going Stormers by just 5 points between the two. So I think it's going to be close. It wouldn't surprise me if the Jaguares won this one. Their team's definitely good enough. That pack is just monstrous. I'm expecting big things. Pablo Matera, he is just a machine of a man. Big things from him. And it depends what we see from their backline. Do we see the best? Do we see the worst? And like you say, discipline. Discipline. It's all we talk about with the Jaguares ever since they've joined. So if they can sort that out, it could help them. Who knows? I mean, this coaching setup could really prove the difference and make them settle down their discipline. Fingers crossed that it does indeed for that one. All right, let's get on to the big one. I think this really is the key match of the opening round. Yeah. The Lions, Sharks, Ellis Park. I mean, where do you start on this game? I've looked at these two sides, the matchup between the two starting 15s. For me, the front row matchup is quite a talking point for me. When you look at the Lions, when they've got Van Rooyen, Marks, and Dreyer, and then you look at the Sharks, they've got Schoeman, Marius, and DeToy. They're just a little bit behind on that, aren't they? It's just areas like that could definitely change this match and decide this match. Other area I think that's probably going to be quite decisive is the outside backs, where you have 2 very inexperienced wingers on both these sides, and then a fairly experienced fullback as well. So you've got Dianti, which I've made a hash of his name, Mahuza, and Kutsia for the Lions. And then on the other side of things, for the Sharks, you got Mpimpi, Nkosi, and Mvolvo. So you got Kutsia and Mvolvo, who are pretty well experienced at this sort of level. But those other 2 wingers is who shows up. Who gets the youth. Mpimpi has been spectacular in preseason. He scored tries for fun, like we know. He's a superstar. But what do you make of these two 15s? Where's your points that these two sides are going to crack the other and make an impact?
I think for the Lions, you've always got to look at their pack. Obviously, to see Warren Whiteley back after huge injury break last year. I think he hasn't played since the July break last year. So, it's been quite a while for him. And it's good to see him back, and hopefully we'll see him captain the Springboks this year. And obviously you got guys like Malcolm Marks, Franco Mostert, Quagga Smith, who's quite a popular guy on your channel. And they've just got some awesome, especially ball running forwards. And they're awesome over the ruck. Malcolm Marks is just an absolute pest around the ruck, over the ball, milking penalties for the Lions. Just their set piece play, their lineouts, their scrums, especially their lineouts are quite dangerous. With a guy like Franco Mostert making your lineup calls. So it'll definitely be the forwards for the Lions, and for the Sharks, I think I'm putting a lot of emphasis on their back three. They got a very good attacking back three, and Liza involved at fullback, Spoon Corsi at wing, and then obviously Makazola Mapimpi at the other wing. I'm actually extremely excited for Mapimpi's first Super Rugby game in the black jersey. He played awesome against Racing Metro. I watched that game live streamed. He played awesome. He scored quite a few tries. So I reckon those three guys are going to be key, especially against the Lions, where, to beat them, you have to score tries and you have to run the ball well.
Yeah, it's going to be a crack of a game. I just think, looking at the sides, you just got to say, I think the Sharks just have a few more questionable areas where they could miss out. Like talked about, I don't know if you want to mention that here, but the substitutes bench on the two sides. Did you want to elaborate on that, what you were saying earlier? So I think that's quite a good point.
Yeah, so the Sharks made quite two questionable calls. They put Beeson Tarira on the bench, and they also put Kerwin Bosch on the bench, who was probably one of our because the Sharks are my team. Just in case you didn't know, I'm not wearing a Sharks jersey this video, but he's one of the Sharks' best players last year, and a few people are sort of looking into that and guessing that the Sharks are putting some of their better players on the bench for that last 20 minutes where, the Lions are so good. I think they were actually one of the best teams in the last 20, if not the best, last year. And just going off past experiences between Sharks and Lions, the Sharks have normally taken the lead early, and they've sort of got gassed and tied in the last 20, and then the Lions have taken the lead back, which is definitely what happened in that quarterfinal last year, where the Sharks had a massive lead against the Lions and then choked it away in the last couple of minutes. So I think that's what's being speculated of, is whether Robert Dupree is thinking like that and wants to put some experience and some talent on the bench just so he can have some fresh players come in on the 50, 60-minute mark and make a big impact.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It sounds like a tactic, doesn't it? It sounds like something, a coach that's thought about what he wants to do and thought about a bit of a game plan. Will it come off? Well, we'll tell you in a couple of days' time when the game's over. I mean, it's definitely a thinking coach's sort of idea, which I thought was quite interesting to go with that sort of stature in the bench especially. So a lot of talk in the comments that the Sharks didn't gel too well in the preseason matches. They did beat the Bulls 31-14, and then they beat Racing Metro 31-14 as well. I checked that a million times over because of how bizarre that they beat the two teams by exactly the same scoreline. The Lions, however, their preseason was just a 66-22 win over the Bulls. Questionable because of how many fringe players, youth players, and things like that come out in that game. But it's bizarre that's been their only real hit out that has been actually played out as a preseason matchup. Anything into this preseason from these two sides? I think the Sharks probably better preparation. But do you think they're not gelling too well, or do you think the preseason hasn't served them too well?
I was quite fascinated when I saw that comment about them not gelling too well. I think it definitely... I didn't watch the Sharks-Bulls game, but I did watch the Racing Metro game, and I think the Sharks played pretty well, especially considering that Racing Metro are mid-season right now, and obviously it wasn't a full-strength side, but there was some experienced guys in that Racing Metro squad, and they beat them quite soundly. So I was quite surprised when that came up. Obviously, they got some new key additions, guys like Robert Dupree Jr. and Mapimpi and guys like that. But as a whole, they actually got a lot of the same squad that they did last year. You experienced guys like Involvo, Mtarira, guys like that. Keegan Daniel coming back into the starting lineup, who used to be the Sharks captain, was a very inspirational captain. And he's a quality player, sort of a Warren Whiteley-esque player. And as a whole, as I look at this squad and I don't see much that isn't gelling. A lot of the guys have played together well. It's just new guys like Robert Dupree and Mapimpi that just need to get integrated into the team. But it might take a few rounds. But this team will be fine. They got some quality guys and a good coach at the helm. So I don't think gelling will be too much of a problem. You always get it in rugby teams in pre-season, start of the season. Gelling is always going to be an issue if you add quite a few people, but it's nothing to be very concerned about.
See, your questions asked here on the channel, you see. You make a comment, it gets brought up. We read, we listen, we take note, we bring it on board. So, don't say we ignore you guys out there. We all listen to it. interesting thing about that Racing Metro game was that, from what I read about it, is that they only really missed Sarzuski and Dan Carter were the two key guys that they actually were missing from that side, which, yes, very good players, but I mean, you play a top 14 game missing those two guys, all the time. Dan Carter is like a China doll out there in that back line. He breaks super easily. So, I thought that was a pretty solid result too. And like you say, especially in that term of the season that they're in, they are like fully blooded. They're mid-season, and they are, at their peak essentially is where they should be. I look back last season at the results between these two sides as well. 3 times they played, which is very interesting. Of course, we all know that last result, but 34-29, the Lions took it out. 27-10, the Lions again in their second meeting. And then, of course, that fateful quarterfinal, 23-21. How did they lose? Do you think that quarterfinal is going to be playing on their mind? Is that going to be mentally there? Like you said before, the core of that team is still pretty much the same. It's still going to be pretty fresh. Last time we took the field in the Sharks jersey, we choked big time against the best team in the competition. Let's be fair, the Lions were the best team in 2017. They topped the table. Sure, they didn't win the final, but they were the top team. The Sharks should have won that game. Is that going to play on their mind come kickoff?
Yeah, 100%. And it's not only the 3 games we lost last year. It's actually gone up to 8-game losing streak over the past few seasons against the Lions, which is, I haven't got the official stat here, but that's 100% the biggest losing streak the Sharks have ever had to the Lions in the professional age anyway. But yeah, it's especially guys who are playing in that last game. There was some mind-boggling mistakes there. There was also some poor reffing calls, but we won't get into that right now because I had quite a big rant about that last year. But the Sharks deserved to lose last year in that quarterfinal with some of the boneheaded mistakes they made, especially in the last 20 minutes, which is when the Lions peak. And they'll definitely be playing their minds, and they want to be rectifying that because they should have actually gone through that semi-final, which they probably would have lost to be realistic, but. They should have been in that semi-final, and it's definitely going to be playing their minds when they run out into the pitch.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be so interesting what happens in this game. It sucks. It sucks to work, It sucks to work on a Sunday. This would be the game to watch. It would really be the game to watch. Let's get on to the big point, though. You're working. Oh. Come on, man. Someone needs to give me a job in rugby. Come on, someone out there. Don't watch these games. Oh, geez. That would be the dream. That is the dream. Anyway, let's wrap it up. One final point. And I don't know how long we're going to talk about this, but the Lions coaches. So much conversation and so many comments about this. Passionate South African fans. Hey, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. It's great to see you guys shooting into the channel as well. Welcome along if you're just joining for the first time. Now, assistant coaches. I don't ever talk about assistant coaches because they are assistant coaches. They're not coaches. If someone's going to take a fall for a call, for a benching, a tactic, a style, it's the coach. Yeah. What I compare this to, I took to the New Zealand teams with driving more with Paul. From there, we talked about the Highlanders. Now, of course, to me, this is a bit more home and I'll be about these sides. But Aaron Major is a coach. Now, I gave Aaron Major a bit of slack because I really don't know what he offers the team. But the fact is that Mark Hammett is his assistant this season. And I thought that's a really good talking point because Mark Hammett, God, he had a nightmare with the Hurricanes. It was almost sure, when you look back at it now, he's probably the culprit for why they actually became so good because he cleared out a lot of that dead wood. But at the time, people were tearing out their hair wondering what the hell he was doing. But he just seems to have no impact now coming into that Highlanders team as assistant coach. And the way I look at it as well is that they are just, they take the calls, like you were saying before, from the coach. And so ultimately, he's got to overlook all this. It's good to say, yes, this guy was the attacking coach. He played that style of rugby. But it's got to be from the chain of command down. And other thing, he's got to take the responsibility for those calls. He's got to take responsibility for the performances. No one goes into a press conference and says, "Hi there, Mr. Assistant Coach Jeff Smith. Your tactic that you played in that game was, they don't get the credit. Yep. They get a bit of credit on the side, but it's the head coach that takes it all." And De Bruin is the man that the comments are all about, saying, his time, high-fiving Ackerman in the coach's box. How did you not know? I mean, he's assistant coach. Who cares? it might as well be the physio for all it matters to me. Ackerman was the coach. He's the guy that takes the credit. He's the guy that takes the fall. He's the overlooker. He's got to be the one. And yes, when you look back at it, successful at Currie Cup level, he's very successful. And he's been there since the Lions started out being good. When all these new players come in, he was there. He was involved, which is fair play, credit to him. You look at that and you say, yes, he could carry on this dynasty of the Lions, but he wasn't the head coach. He wasn't the man that made the tough calls. He wasn't the man that made the ultimate decisions. And it is a whole new coaching setup this season as well. A lot of talk about how De Bruin was the attacking backline coach, when actually last season it was JP Ferreira who was the attacking coach. He's gone. His contract was almost expired and they've got rid of him. Now they've got Joey Mangalo coming in. Philip Lemmer is coming as a forwards coach, because I think they had, what's his name, the lock with the curly hair and the headgear. Forgotten his name. Come on, help me out.
Victor Matfield?
Victor Matfield. Yeah. He was the forwards coach in the past as well. So a lot of changes. Sure, they've still got that top guy now who was assistant, but there's still a lot changing, especially in their whole back room of the assistant coach and that as well. So what's your thoughts on all this? That's my little rant on it. I think there's some truth in what people were saying. Sure, they do have impact, but ultimately it comes down to one man, and he is the head coach and he takes all the call. Take it away.
I mean,
I've probably ruined all your points here, but
no, that's all right. I got some fresh ones.
Go for it.
Look, with I respect a lot of the points people made about De Bruin, and his time under Ackerman. With assistant coaches coming up into head coaching roles, it could go 50-50. He could get a situation sort of like how Eddie Jones was an assistant before he was a head coach and became an absolutely fantastic head coach. But you can also get situations where a guy like Daryl Gibson, who was a very good assistant coach under Michael Cheika, Cheika left, and Daryl Gibson came up and he doesn't play the same game plan as Cheika did, and he absolutely just slaughtered that Waratahs team. And look where they are now compared to where Cheika was. So, some guys are very good assistant coaches because they don't have to take a lot of, like you said, they don't have to take a lot of the pressure. They don't have to take as many tough media questions as the head coaches do. And they can fly under the radar far more than you would if you're a head coach, because when a team is going bad, when a team season is going badly, fans aren't calling for the assistant coaches to get sacked. They're calling for the head coaches to get sacked. So it could go 50-50. I'm not saying De Bruyne will be a bad coach. I'm not saying that he will play a more... a lot of people pick me up and saying that they'll play a more traditional style of South African, rugby, tactical kicking type thing. I'm not saying that he will play that. I'm saying there's a better chance of him playing that because also people forget the human factor of coaches. No coach is going to say, okay, I've spent the last 4 or 5 years under this guy. I don't want to be called a copycat if I completely take his game plan. I want to sort of pioneer my own game plan and see if that works and try out different things. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. He might try a more tactical style of kicking, or he might, do probably the best thing that he could do and just copy what he learned under Ackerman, which there's nothing wrong with. But no coach wants to just be called sort of a copycat and just for copying another coach's game plan. But we'll see. I'm hoping that he does well. I like the Lions, and I'm hoping that he has a good term. But it could go either way. Some guys, like you said, awesome assistant coaches, but awful head coaches because people sort of don't seem to realize just because someone's an attack coach for a team doesn't mean they come up with everything. The coaches will have a meeting every week or so, every couple of days, and the head coach will say, this is my game plan, this is my goal. What can we do to work forward to that? And then they'll take suggestions from other coaches, and then they'll run with that. But at the end of the day, it's the head coach's call what they do. Like I said before, a head coach is not going to let an attack coach or a forwards coach sort of run off and do what they want because there's no team cohesion and there's no similarities between the different types of the team's play. So just because a guy was a good assistant coach doesn't mean he's a good head coach is my main point I was trying to get to there. Yeah,
no, I agree with you. And you said, what you just really said. I mean, that head coach is going to say, I want to play this style. I want you to train these guys to play in this form of play. If he comes in and you say, yes, anytime we're in our own half, we're going to kick to touch. Yep. An attack coach, he builds a reputation of that style of play, but that's not his natural style of play if he becomes a head coach specifically. He could have a completely different style, but he is the man under. And so, to me, Ackerman has to take pretty much all the credit, because in the end of the day, it is his style of play that he has said to whoever, De Bruyne, he said to Ferreira, he said to Matfield, he said to whoever, I want to play this style of game. This is my team, this is how we play. And those coaches, sure, maybe if they're good attacking coaches, they will teach the players how to play that, or train the players to play that way better than others. Sure, you can't deny that. But just when they get that freedom to say, my team, I'll play how the hell I like, that can often bring in a different side. And we're not saying that he's not going to be attacking, because I've read some press conferences that the Joey Mongalo has talked about, saying that, yes, we want to play the same style that we had under Ackerman. We want to play the attacking style. But he also mentioned things that I thought were quite key, is that they don't, like you said about copycat, actually, you brought a good follow-on from that. They don't want to play that exact same style, because the last 2 years, Super Rugby teams have seen that. They know what it is, and they've adapted in a way. They want to play that style, but they want to change it. They want to evolve it, you could say, as well, and give their own spin on it. How that's going to change their game plan, we won't know until these, a few weeks into the competition. Sure, they'll still be attacking, but everyone has a different form of attacking. Everyone has different set-piece plays. They're going to change all that stuff up. The line-out's going to change. The scrum plays are going to change. It's all going to change up. But whether those guys are good enough coaches to forward that on, and he's obviously head coach with the Currie Cup side, so you can take from that. His style of play will probably be fairly similar to that, if he can get his same work from his coaching staff. So it's going to be interesting to see what he brings in to that side.
A Currie Cup that the Lions didn't win or make the final, I'm just going to add as well.
Fair point.
Yeah. Fair
point as well. So it's things like that. I mean, a Currie Cup team is a bit different. It's not a Super Rugby team. It's not to defending second place side for the last 2 years in a row. How he handles that, different players, higher pressures, all that sort of thing. A lot more media interaction internationally. I mean, the guy could be really good. I'm not saying that he won't be. I'm just trying to defend really what we said, is that we don't know what he's going to be like. And I find that what he did as an assistant coach is not going to portray to what he was like as a full-time coach, because I put that all down to the head coach. He's the one that takes the fall, he takes a hit, he takes the credit, he takes the responsibility. A tough call comes up, they're going to go, hey, Mr. Ackerman, what do you reckon? Do we adapt this play? I've come up with this great idea. He's going to say, get the hell out of my office. Or he's going to say, let's go with it. It's going to come down to that. So I'm interested to see, all these new coaches, and to be fair, there's been a lot of them. I'm keen to see what comes from it too. So it could be a very, very interesting opening round. I mean, the Lions could completely capitulate. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Okay, enough on the coach. Have you brought up all points you want to defend yourself on the coaches for the Lions?
No, that's pretty much it. If like, say, Swiss De Bruyne, if he had something that he wanted to try a few years ago, and I said, absolutely not, I'm not going to do that. He might have something like that where he's like, okay, now I'm head coach, now I can try that, and it might work and it might not work. So, like you said, they're going to try some new things under a new coach. It could work very well, it could work horribly, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
And it's interesting, you compare it to, like, EPL over in England football. A lot of those managers, they call them, whatever, still coaches, they get sacked. And if they don't have someone straight away, if it's middle of the season, they bring interim managers, which is often the assistant manager. Now, if the assistant manager was as much responsible for the way a team played as the manager was, why would you bring the assistant manager up? If if your team's doing so badly, you sack your manager, you won't bring an assistant up going, oh, well, he's going to play exactly the same way. No, it's going to change. So it's a big different game. It's a big different game. But hopefully, go the Lions. Fair play to them. Hopefully they do well. And he's got the pedigree. Can he step it up a level? That's the big call for them. At home, should be a cracker. Anything else you want to add between the Lions and the Sharks? And what is your prediction? Who's going to take the big one for round one?
All right, before I make my prediction, I'm just going to say that the overall standings that I made in the South African Conference preview are still there. I'm not backtracking on anything. I say that because I got the Lions just edging past the Sharks by 5, but I still think the Sharks will top the South African Conference at the end of the year when it's all said and done. But I got the Lions by 5, primarily just because it's quite a big losing streak, and breaking that at Ellis Park or Emirates Airlines Park, whatever they're calling it now, is going to be tough. The Lions do play well there, and they've they've got a lot of their core that was there last year. They've got a few guys that they need to get into the system, but they're just playing behind that pack, especially. They put a lot of their emphasis in their set plays, their packs, their scrums. They should be able to get past the Sharks, but it'll be a very close game. It could go either way, but yeah, I've got the Lions by 5. But like I said, the Sharks could easily take it if they wanted to.
Yep, I agree. This one could definitely 100% go either way. No question about it. I would not be surprised if it's either of them by up to 20 points, to the fact that it just could be one team's day and it might not be the other. Form, there is no form. No. There is no form at all. And preseason, like we've said all along, means absolutely nothing. I've got Lions by 3. I chopped and changed, undecided, didn't know what to do. But I'm the same as you. I've still called the Sharks to take top spot. And I've called the Stormers to take second as well, which, to the man that commented on that, about what impossible world is that ever going to happen, round 1, buddy, round 1. I replied to your comment, and round 1, that could happen. The Stormers win by 5, and the Sharks win by 10. 1-2. Sharks, Stormers. Eat that. That is highly possible to happen. It is not a fantasy world. That's all it takes. And it's possible. But I've got the Lions. I think as the season wears on, I think the Sharks are going to improve. I think they're going to definitely work out these new players into their team. They're going to get better. We'll probably see this pack start to work a bit better. And, injuries. It only takes the Lions to lose a couple of big players. They lose, someone big. One of their front rowers. They lose one of the halves. Cronje, Yankees, any one of those two goes. That's huge. That changes their whole season. It's similar for every side as well. So I'm still sticking with my top 5 as well as you. But, going to be close. It's going to be a cracker. I really think it's going to be one of the great opening rounds of Super Rugby with that game in there as well. But that is it. We're both going the Lions. Yep. What was your margin?
5? By 5, yeah.
Well, you're going by 5. I'm going by 3. I'm going very close. I'm going driving more margins. Oh my God! If he watches this, he's going to be proud. His tactic of if it's more than double figures, you're putting the house on it. God.
He beat us both last year on the standing, so he was on something.
That's a good point as well. That's a good point. That's a good point. We should mention at the start of the video as well. Super Brew League. Go and sign up quickly. I'll leave all the items that you need to know in the description. You can go and sign up to that and take us on in our picks throughout the whole season and prove that you're better than us, which won't be very difficult because, last season we were about mid-table, I think, so I'm not too displeased about that. We're going to be there with the predictor, going to be there for fantasy team as well, so if you're not involved, you better be quick because it's only about 2 days away from kicking off. So do get involved and quickly get your picks out for those. That is us, though, for today. I think that's a nice little cover-up of those opening 2 games. Hopefully in future when we've got, 7 games to go through, we won't talk about them for so long. But if you've been around the channel for a while, you know that no video is short. We go in depth and we really pick out the little details of these games. But thanks for joining us, Brett. If people want to get hold of you and abuse you more personally, where can they find you?
Just on Twitter at BrettHartley390. And before I go, I do appreciate your criticisms in the comments. Please feel free to call me up on anything I said wrong or you don't agree with, and then I'll try my best to argue back. And a lot of you guys who I did argue back with actually were, quite well-mannered and quite good when they responded back to me. So, I appreciate your criticism and your arguments, and it's all banter at the end of the day. So, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's all opinion. We don't have to agree. We never will agree. But that's a great thing about opinion. I can think something. You can think something else. Let's talk. Add us on Twitter, at CornflakesCrypt. You can find me there as well. When the games get underway, there's going to be plenty of abuse flying around between all of us as we just, lay into everything we possibly can. So join in the fun. Come see us. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week for round number 2. And we'll have all the teams involved then. So another guest might be on track for that one. Thanks for joining us, Brett. We'll see you again later in the Super Rugby preview show when we have a round with a few South African teams there as well. We've got a bit more info to run with. Until then, thanks for joining us as always. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Until then, take care.